Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this narration of the web novel Humans Don't Make Good Familiars, taken from Reddit. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Vindictor's point of view. Our tattered and tired group walked up the rocky path that we had stumbled upon just short distance from where Von Pack found an entrance to the cave. Jake was in the back, still feeling sluggish from the paralytic bite of that creature. Von Pack was riding on my familiar. Well, he was less riding and more lying flat on my familiar's saddle, half passed out from mana exhaustion. I still can't believe it, Jake mumbled. Believe what? Suma asked from his shoulder saddle. That are perfectly safe. He stopped talking and looked at several large rocks rolling down the side of the mountain and falling off the side of the sheer cliff with a huge crack, like a breaking branch, as they hit the ground below. Well, mostly safe. Path was just a few meters past the entrance of that cave. Von Pack groaned. I couldn't tell if he was agreeing or cursing, but he did whatever it was with that sounded like annoyance. How are you feeling, Jake? I asked. Badly, he replied. I was confused by his response. What do you mean? I wondered. Barely. I can barely feel anything, except for tingling, like pins and needles, I said. Where is the tingling? Maybe I can heal you a bit more, Simma asked. Just a few places. My hands, my arms, my legs, feet, chest, back, head, face. Oh, yeah, and tongue. I can't forget that, he said. I'm sorry for bringing you there, Jake, Simma said, her head lowered regretfully. Don't worry about it. You didn't know that the cave was filled with chupacabra. I reassured her. Von Pack groaned unintelligibly, his face pressed firmly into the corner of a grocer's saddle. What? Simma said. Von Pack raised his head and spoke louder and more clearly. I thought that you said that they were called echoes, he asked, and then lowered his head again. A chupacabra is, well, it's like, forget it. I'm too out of it right now. Let's just call them echoes, Jake said, downtrodden. We all walked in silence for a while, slowly following the twisting and turning hill. The POV of the drill instructor. I was perched in my room when my assistant yelled that another group was spotted coming up the path. I quickly made my way outside and confirmed that it was in fact Team 4, which consisted of towmen and recruits 7 and 8. They seemed happy upon the familiar's back, and I could see why. The named Niema towman had a silver band around his neck. They came striding into town, like they were hot stuff. Hello, drill instructor, towman said. Here is our band, sir. The other two removed the band from his neck, and the one brought it to me. And only a few minutes till nightfall. Not bad for third place, I told him. Team 4 should be proud. He seemed taken aback, like I had just pecked his head. Third, sir? Are you telling me that 2 other teams came before us? He almost whined. Yes, teams 1 and 2 have both already arrived, I explained. At least we weren't last, one of the team members said. Yeah, we don't have to wake up early for training, the other agreed. Towman looked at his comrades in disgust. Aye, if you two hadn't, if we had, he stuttered. His head fell forward. Let's just go get some sleep. I don't care anymore. They walked away, probably feeling defeated based on Towman's response. I wonder what happened to them, my assistant asked. Dragon's Hoard is filled with a number of dangerous creatures. They most likely had a tough time with some of them, I said, and then flew back to my room to wait for the next and final group to arrive. I wonder what's taking Group 3 so long. They had a Viking after all. POV of Jake. It took 2 hours, but the last of the paralysis had finally worn off. Just in time, too, because all 3 of my teammates were perched somewhere on my body as I climbed up a steep hill. All of their familiars were either too tired to continue or couldn't be summoned due to lack of mana. Night fell over an hour ago, and I was maintaining a fireball a few meters above us to light our way. Most of the creatures on this mountain were nocturnal, apparently, so a giant fall of fire came in handy keeping them away. None of the beasts came close enough to see clearly, thankfully. How are you doing, Jake? Sim asked. I'm fine. Can you guys see okay? I asked. Niema didn't have particularly good vision at night. Well enough, Vindicta said sleepily. Bonpack didn't respond, because he was completely asleep. Our journey up the mountain continued for another 30 minutes before I finally saw what we'd been looking for. The top. Finally, I said and collapsed to my knees, exhausted. Bonpack fell to the ground and woke up yelling, "Yeah! What's going on?" he said, finally getting to a standing position. We're at the top, Vindicta said as she turned, and Suma fluttered slowly to the ground. Oh, good, finally, Bonpack said, settling his standing feathers back down to his body. You guys can start looking for those bands. I'm gonna rest, I said, and laid down on the grass. The heat from my fireball was incredibly soothing, and it wasn't long before I drifted off to sleep. Suma's POV. Bonpack, Vindicta, and I flew in separate directions, searching for the silver bands. Jake's fire spell was bright, but it wasn't enough to itself illuminate an entire mountaintop. So we literally were searching in the dark, as most of us were too tired and drained of mana to cast our own fire spells. I didn't know how the others were doing, but if they were having as hard a time as I was, then we would be on this mountain for a while. In the darkness, the shadows all started to blend together. So much so that I nearly flew into boulders on 2 separate occasions. We searched for 10 minutes before I finally heard Bonpack's voice call out, "Yay, found it!" he shouted. I flew over to his location to see for myself, and there it was, a single band wrapped tightly around a metal pole in the ground. We couldn't undo the band's knot with magic, as you need mana for that, so we each carefully grabbed it with our beaks and undid it. We crossed over and under one another like some kind of serpent twisting around in its death throes. In the end, however, we were able to undo it. Once it was free, we looked at it for a moment. Well, we tried to anyway. Is it getting darker? I asked. Your familiar must be running out of mana, Bonpack suggested. We had better get back to him. As he was saying that, suddenly it became bright again. What in Edmoja? Vindicta wondered. Confused, we all flew back to Jake and saw him still lying on the ground. Above him was a fire spell, and it seemed to be slowly shifting in size, getting smaller and larger every few minutes. Jake, what are you doing with the fire spell? I asked, but he didn't answer. However, there was a strange noise that he was making. I flew over to beside his and realized he was asleep. He's asleep, I told the others quietly. But, he's making a noise, and his fire spell is still active, Bonpack pointed out. Huh. They're in rhythm, Vindicta said. What are? He's breathing and the fire spell, she said. The spell is growing and shrinking in time with his breathing. I stopped to watch the two for a moment, and she was right. As Jake breathed in, the spell got larger. When he breathed out, it shrunk. How is he doing that? Bonpack wondered. Which part? I wondered. All of it. How is he maintaining a spell while asleep, and how is he making it keep time with his breathing? He wondered. Well, I didn't call him Sentinel for nothing, I said. We have the band now. Should we wake him up? Vindicta asked. I think we should let him sleep. We will come in last and have to wake up early if we don't hurry, Bonpack reminded us. I think we're really going to have to do that, I said. Bonpack sighed. You're probably right, but we still can't stay on Dragon's Heart of all places overnight. Why not? Jake's spell is producing enough heat to keep us warm and enough light to keep any beast away, Vindicta pointed out. We could at least get a few hours of sleep before going all the way back down. But if he runs out of mana before sunrise, Bonpack argued. Unlikely, I said. His mana capacity is huge, and even if he was constantly outputting mana, which he isn't, he is just maintaining a spell he already cast. Then it would still take over an hour for him to run out of mana. Over an hour? Vindicta asked, stunned. His life force density must be staggering. I can't even imagine his mana reservoir. Have you ever had it measured? Bonpack asked. Actually, we have. His life force is 500 Kalma and about 60 Dalma. He also has a mana reservoir of 915, I told them. They both stood in stunned silence, probably deciding if they'd actually believe such staggering figures. How? Just how? One Pack wondered. Vindicta stayed quiet for a moment longer. She seemed to be deep in thought. Suma, I don't mean to, it's just, She stopped herself. She had regretted saying anything in the first place. What is it? I asked. The rumors. I didn't believe them, not until you said, but, I want you to know that I don't care about them, even if they are true, she stuttered out. Rumors? What rumors? I questioned. I don't want to, I don't mean to, she tried to say, but One Pack cut her off. She means the rumors about your familiar, Jake, being a Viking. End of chapter. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I would just quickly like to give thanks to our Tier 5 members. Alithia, Barky, Feudicuel, Meridian117, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Albarden Guster, Savage Patch Papa, and Lord Azrakal.